this is Sarah, and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to make Cluck the chicken hot pad or pot holder. Now before we go any farther, I want to talk to you about yarns. These two chickens, Cluck 1 and Cluck 2, are made with worsted weight number 4 acrylic yarn. And if you're going to make these as a decoration to hang up in your kitchen or maybe to set out for fun, you can definitely make them out of acrylic yarn. If you're going to use them as an actual hot pad or pot holder, meaning putting something hot on top of them, you're going to need to make them out of cotton yarn. When acrylic yarn is gotten too hot, it can melt and cause issues. So that's something you need to think about before you get started making Cluck the chicken. Now this is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. So what you're going to need to make yourself a Cluck the chicken hot pad or pot holder is either some cotton or worsted weight yarn for the main color of your chicken. The black and white I have here is a Bernat variegated yarn, and this one is a Red Heart fleck, beige with some different colored flecks in it. For today's demonstration, I'm going to be using this yarn. This is, I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby, and it's the walnut. You're also going to need 3 different other colors and just a small amount. I'm going to use this brown to edge my feathers and for the eye. And then of course you'll need some sort of a yellow for the beak and the red for the other portions of the chicken for the comb here. And again, let me just say this one more time. If you're using this for decoration, acrylic yarn, worsted weight number 4, and if you're going to use it as an actual hot pad or pot holder, you're going to need to use cotton. We're going to be stitching today with our H hook, and this is an H8, which is a 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. You're going to need a needle with a nice big eye for weaving in ends and embroidering on the eye. And of course, you'll need your scissors. We'll be starting our hot pad in the center and working our way out and then working back and forth. But you're going to find this is a really simple chicken hot pad pattern. Let me set this one aside and we'll get started. We're going to begin with a slip knot. And then we're going to chain 5. We'll join that into a circle by putting that tail on our hook and pulling it through. We'll snug that down and make that little stay knot. There we go. Now I want you to make sure that the tail of your yarn is on this side and your working yarn is on this side, because as we stitch, we're going to stitch over that tail. All right, so we're going to put our hook through. We're going to pull up a loop and chain 3. This chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. And now we're going to double crochet 9 more times so that we'll have a total of 10 double crochets. And you'll notice that I'm stitching over that tail of yarn, and that will just make it easy for us to close that hole when we're done, so our chicken doesn't have a hole in the center. All right, just in case you don't remember how to do a double crochet, you yarn over, you go in the hole or the stitch you're working and pull up a loop. Yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and go through the second 2 loops. All right, let me count how many I've made so far. So here's our chain 3, which counts as our first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I need one more double crochet in that chain 5 loop. And now I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch. I just missed it, didn't I? Get in there. There we go. Pull it through and then pull that loop through the loop that's on your hook, and we're going to chain 3. So there's our first row of 10 double crochets. For row 2, our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to place a double crochet in that first stitch. And now we're going to place 2 double crochets and each of our double crochets around, and this will give us 20 double crochets. Two double crochets in each of the 10 that we started with, including our chain 3. So we're increasing from 10 double crochets on the first row to 20 double crochets on the second row. Almost around. Two, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. I'm once again going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. So there's your row 2. For row 3, we're going to be doing what I call 1 and 2. And so our chain 3 here counts as 1 double crochet. We're going to place 2 double crochets in the next stitch. Then we'll place just 1 double crochet in this next stitch. And that's the way this row will work. We'll stitch 2 double crochets in the next, and 1 double crochet in the next. 1 and 2, 1 and 2, all the way around this row, stitching double crochets. 1 double crochet and 2 double crochets. And we're increasing this row up to 30 double crochets. One and 2 all the way around this row. At the end of row 3, we're not going to join. We're going to chain 3 and turn. So we're just going to turn our work. We're going to place a double crochet in that first double crochet. And then on this row, we're going to do what's called 2 and 2. So our chain 3 count as 1 double crochet, and then we double crocheted in that same stitch. We're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets. Then we'll stitch 2 double crochets in the next double crochet. And that's why I call it 2 and 2. 2 individual double crochets and then 2 double crochets in the same stitch. So here's 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 double crochets in the next. And this is the way this row will work. One, two, and then 2 double crochets in the next. And we won't be joining our rows anymore because we're working back and forth around the edge. Let me grab this other chicken so I can show you what I'm talking about. We did our first 2 rounds joining. And then now we're here, we're working this way, then we'll turn and work back this way, turn and work back this way. And that's the way the chicken will be worked, back and forth, not in rounds anymore. That's what gives us that sort of chickeny look. All right, so I'm stitching 1 double crochet in the next 2, and then 2 double crochets in the next double crochet. So we finished our last stitch, and for row 4 you should have 40 double crochets. We chained 3. We're going to turn our work again, no joining. We're going to place a double crochet in that first double crochet stitch, and then this time we're going to stitch 3 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 3 double crochet stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and now we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in the next, and that's the way that this row is going to work. We're going to stitch 3 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches, and then 2 double crochets together. Or we could call this 3 and 2. I always do a double count on those individual double crochets, making sure I got enough in there, because we want to keep it even. 1, 2, and 3, and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. One double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, and then 2 double crochets together. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2 in the same stitch. And when you get to the end of row 5, you should have 50 double crochets. Alrighty, for row 6, we have our chain 3. We're going to again turn our work, stitch 1 double crochet in that first double crochet, and then on this row, instead of stitching 3 individual double crochets, we're going to stitch 4. 1 double crochet in the next 4 double crochets. Whoopsie, there we go. Then, after we get those 4 double crochets, we're going to stitch 2 in the next stitch. And that's the way that row 6 works. 1 double crochet in the next 4 double crochets, and then 2 double crochets together. And we'll repeat this all the way around our row. And you can really see the shape of the chicken body forming. Alrighty, so 1 double crochet in the next 4 double crochets, and 2 double crochets together. Oopsie. And we'll do this all the way around our row. I finished row 6, stitching 4, then 2, 4, then 2, all the way around. And at this point, you should have 60 double crochets. Now, at the end of this row, we're just going to chain 1, and then we're going to turn our work. And on this row, we're going to begin with our shell stitches that form the feathers of the chicken. And the way we do that is we're going to put a single crochet in this first stitch. We're going to skip 2 stitches and then stitch 5 double crochets in the next stitch. And that's our shell stitch that helps to form the feathers on our chicken. Five double crochets in that same stitch. We'll skip the next 2 stitches and stitch a single crochet. All right, we're going to repeat this 7 more times so that we have 8 shell stitches. So we'll skip the next 2 stitches and stitch 5 double crochets in that same, or in that next double crochet stitch. 5 double crochets in the same stitch together. So there's our second shell stitch. We're going to skip 2 double crochets and single crochet in the next stitch. Skip 2 stitches and make that shell stitch in the next stitch. There's our third shell. And again, we're going to skip the next 2 stitches and single crochet in the next. Skip the next 2 stitches and shell stitch in the next. Skip the next 2 stitches and single crochet in the next. So there's our first 4. We need to do 4 more, so we have 8 tail feathers. I've stitched my 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shell stitches. And now we're going to form the neck and the head of the chicken. We're going to place 1 single crochet in the next 4 single crochets. We're going to skip the next 3 stitches, and in this next stitch we're going to stitch 8 double crochets. There's 6, 7, and 8. You can see how that forms the head of our chicken. Then we're going to place a single crochet in that last stitch, and that's actually a chain 3. There we go. And we're just going to stitch a single crochet in that stitch, and you can kind of get the idea of how the chicken is going to look. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to single crochet down this edge. We're going to go ahead and put that tie in and then single crochet back up. That way we don't have to cut our yarn and do that later. It's already done. And so what we'll do is we'll go right down this edge to the center there, and just place a single crochet in the ends of those rows, trying not to go in the holes but in the sides of the stitches, and this just gives it a nice finished edge in the center. There isn't a set number of stitches that you need. Just make sure that it looks pretty and it's not puckering. It's laying nice and flat. Alright, then when we get to that center stitch, we're going to chain 12. And this is going to be the loop that we hang it with. And then we'll go right back in that stitch where we were and stitch a single crochet. Move that loop over. There we go. And then we'll just go right up the other side here of our chicken. And we're just single crocheting back up to the top of the last tail feather there, or shell stitch. Just make your single crochets even and neat, and then we'll just go right in that single crochet and make a slip stitch and tie off, and we'll be finished with our main color. Now this is how it should look at this point. If you want your tie or your loop to be longer, you can add more than the 12 stitches. It's just up to you how long you want that. And this is how our chicken should look at this point. The next thing that we're going to do is this detail on the feathers. I was going to do this one in a brown, but I changed my mind and I'm going to use this cream color just so that you can see it a little bit better. I was afraid the brown would be too dark, and the cream works just fine. We're going to join our yarn to that single crochet at the top of that last tail feather, or the first tail feather I should say, because that's where we started. There we go. To make that detail around our tail feathers, we're going to place a single crochet in that first single crochet. We're going to place a single crochet in the first 2 double crochets. And then in the next double crochet, we're going to place 2 single crochets. We'll place 1 single crochet in the next 2 double crochets. And now we're going to do what I call a long single crochet. To stitch that long single crochet, we're going to go around that single crochet stitch, put our hook in where that first single crochet was stitched, and stitch a single crochet. And that makes a long stitch that gives us a little bit of a detail that forms that tail feather. All right, so now we're going to do on the shell stitch what we did on this one. We're going to stitch 1 single crochet in the first 2, then we'll stitch 2 single crochets in the next. There we go. All right, then we'll stitch 1 single crochet in those next 2, and then we'll stitch another long single crochet going down where we stitched the original single crochet and stitch a long single crochet. And see how that makes a really pretty detail? And we're going to repeat this all the way around these shell stitches. Isn't that pretty? I'll continue this around these next 4 shell stitches. I stitched that detail all the way around my shell stitches. On all 8, we're going to place a single crochet in that last single crochet and tie off. I'm just going to pull that to the back so it's not seen, and we can weave that in later. We'll have a few things to weave in when we get done. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the beak. So I've got my yellow yarn all ready here. We're going to join the yellow yarn to the first double crochet of the head. There we go. And we're going to chain 4 stitches. The tail out of the way there. There we go. All right, so what we're going to do is in the second chain from our hook here, we're going to stitch a slip stitch. So we just go in, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the loop on our hook. Then we're going to stitch a single crochet in that next stitch and a single crochet in the next stitch. There we go. And then we'll join right to that next double crochet, just like that, and we'll tie that off. All right, let's turn it over so we can see the back here. And I want to go ahead and show you how to tie this off because we want to make a little extra stitch here. What I do is I make just a little extra stitch and just go ahead and grab that yellow so it can stay put like that. We want our beak to stay right where it's at, and then we'll just weave right back through there. Make sure that you go through some stitches and some fibers and not the holes, or it might come out. And we want to be really tricky about hiding our stitches. You want to stay in the yellow. Don't go in the brown portion or it might show through. Because these may be seen on the back side as well. All right, so that's our little beak. Isn't that cute? And the next thing that we need to do, of course, is add the red down here and then the little comb on top. We're going to join our red yarn to that next single crochet after our trim. There we go. And then we'll single crochet in those next 4 stitches. The beak can get in the way just a little bit, but I like to do the beak first because it helps me with placement. All right, so I need to do one more. And then we can tie that off. And we'll weave that in just a second. And now we're going to join our red yarn in, and we're going to make the comb on the top of the head. So we'll put our hook right in that stitch, right past the beak. There we go. And then we'll place 2 single crochets in the next stitch. One single crochet in the next, 2 single crochets in this next one, and then 1 single crochet in the next 4. That way it goes right around the top of the head. Alrighty, so it looks like I've got quite a bit of weaving in to do. But before I weave those red strings in, I want to show you about the center of our chicken. On the back side, we had that long tail. And from the middle, and just in case you have a hole, you need to give that string just a gentle tug. Make sure that hole closes up. And then we'll weave this in by just going around those stitches. And then I go up a stitch and go right back the way I came, back around, because I don't want that hole to open up. There we go. Alrighty, so it looks like I need to take a few minutes and tidy up my ends, and then I'll show you how to add the chicken's little eye. I took a couple minutes and I tidied up all of my ends so everything's all weaved in, and the only thing left that Cluck the chicken needs is an eye. And what I do to make the eye is I want it up high, and so I just come up from the back, I'll leave some thread, and I'll just go through the top layer of the stitches, not go all the way through, and just make a couple of stitches. They're just straight stitches, and then go to the back. And I'll just weave that in, making sure, I move that up a little bit here, making sure I don't go through to the front, because I don't want the white to show through, but I do want to try to hide those stitches. All right, let's weave this other one in, and Cluck the chicken will be all ready to hang on the kitchen wall. Now, if you don't want to make a sewn-on eye, you can always use a button if you want to. Now, Cluck the chicken measures about 9 inches across, so it's the perfect size to set a pan on. But just remember, I know this is the 3rd time I've said this, but I want to make sure that you understand, if you're going to put a hot pot or pan on Cluck the chicken, you need to make her out of cotton yarn. If you're going to use her for a decoration, like my friend is, then worsted weight is just fine. And so that is how you make Cluck the chicken, pot holder, or hot pad, or just a wall decoration for your kitchen.